Hi folks, if anyone's watching, I'm Bruce Thompson here in New Zealand. Stephen Merrill Smith, who was going to accompany me on this, has been held up by subway failure, so he won't be able to join us, I think. Brian.
Hi.
How you doing?
Pretty well, you?
Good. We've got at least one person. Now, I'm getting a lot of echo. Would it be possible to try putting headphones on? Or?
Yeah, give me just a minute and I'm going to locate some. Okay, is that a little better?
It'll depend. Let's see. Yeah, I can't hear an echo now.
Okay, good. Yeah, I had
that's
the
excellent.
Volume on my phone pretty high up.
Wonderful. It's so much more fun talking with somebody else than talking to myself.
I know what you mean. I used to do phone support and stuff. Yeah, it gets old real quick, doesn't it?
Right. Now, Brian, what's your surname?
McAvoy, M-C-E.
Oh, okay, McAvoy. Okay, you're the guy I read stuff from all the time.
Oh, okay. Where do you read my stuff?
On Google Plus. You're the engineer. You're constantly doing projects, right?
Yeah, that's okay. I was just curious. I mean, earlier today, actually, I just released an Instructable for a 3D Oculus Rift kind of ripoff that was made with Legos. I've been talking about it on the blog.
Okay.
But so I was kind of looking at the stats for that.
Yeah. Okay. For watchers, for viewers who don't know Brian, he's an electronics guy who does projects all the time and posts them. He's associated also, I think, with the grinders fraternity. They're people who do implants into their bodies so that they can sense things in their bodies. They can do things like RFID, that's an identification chip, and magnets in their fingers, all that sort of thing. So he's of interest to me in that regard, because I'm going to get a magnet implant in my finger soon to sense things. So that's a little bit of Brian. Now, Brian, what I'll do is I'll start the teleconference going. I don't know whether you saw the list of topics. You probably haven't seen the list of topics, but here are the kinds of things that I'd like to talk about today. One was there was a video about savants, people who've got brains that are very unusual and that they have extraordinary mathematical ability or ability to learn language. So I posted that out to a few people. I don't know whether you had a chance to see it. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that, but just to discuss briefly how it seems that our brains have capacities way beyond what our normal capacities are, and even a normal person can be injured and develop remarkable ability with memory or and so on. So talk about that. That's one topic. The other topic was brain caps. Let's confer about brain caps, which can show states of our brain and that can also control things. I'm sure you know a bit about that because you're a biohacker. Biohacking, for the audience, means people who do things to their bodies that give them extra abilities. Then briefly, maybe if we have time, talk about the implant of memories, because apparently mice have been implanted with memories that enable them to do things that they've never actually done, and even to make them feel different about it, whether they liked it or not. So that's another little quick topic. The topic of most interest to me today is Watson, the IBM computer. That's a supercomputer, contains the entire Wikipedia and has algorithms and heuristics that enable it to do very human-like thinking. And I'm delighted to see recently that IBM is making it available soon, within months, to college students and other people, and I'm just dying to get access to it. So that's one interesting topic. And if we have time, a little bit of talk about nanotech, because Stephen posted a video about nanotech and what the vision of the future of manufacturing is, and whether or not nanotech, whether we can host ourselves in using nanotech into different kinds of bodies or things. And if we have any time at all left, which we probably won't, talk about that threat of the grey goo, where nanotechnology self-replicates or self-builds, making use of whatever resources there are in the ecology and everything, and totally turns the planet into grey goo. So those were a bunch of topics to make sure we didn't run out of things to talk about. I'll tell you what, Brian, if you have a preference to start a topic, you can toss it in now, or I'll start on one of those. What would you prefer?
I'd like to hear what you want to start with.
All right, let's start with Watson. Are you familiar with the Watson supercomputer?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, I'm not sure how long ago, a year or two ago, it won Jeopardy against the world's two greatest Jeopardy players on television. It was able to work out a very cryptic and very difficult to work out question, and it won the Jeopardy. And so it's not just a very mechanical sort of expert system. It's something that can deduce. It knows innuendo and nuance of things, as well as having huge amounts of knowledge that it can access in 3 seconds, like the entire Wikipedia. It can search in 3 seconds, and it deduced what the drift of the cryptic remark was, and then it said that they're trying to say that. I can't remember what it was, but so it's very, very clever. Now it's being applied to, at the moment, it's being applied to very important topics. For example, the medical fraternity would sit Watson on top of big data on epidemiology, and or a particular kind of cancer, and would look at all the thousands and thousands of cases of that particular cancer, and would say, I see a trend there, and if you use that particular medication, you might be able to arrest it with that lipid or that peptide or something like that, and the receptors probably work for that. So it comes back with clever answers. It can do diagnosis as well. A doctor can interact with Watson in a voice, and it will maybe ask 20 questions. Say, in that case, it is in fact much more likely to be meningitis than just a cold. It's quite a difficult diagnosis. So that's what IBM's being used for now. And retail, just quickly, retail, it's being used for retail. The retailer sits in his chair, asks the questions back and forward about shoes or trousers or whatever it is, and says, what should I do now? And then Watson will say, where are your branches located? What are your prospects, and what are your plans in product line in the next 2.5 years? And then it asks question after question, and then it then says, okay, you would be better to specialize in men's tweed trousers for the heavier set guys in this area and that area, because it's getting cold there, and we know that the culture in that area is for tweedy things, so that kind of guys. So, you know, it gets the drift of the culture of the area and that sort of thing. That's what Watson can do. Now, if you had Watson, what would you apply it to?
I guess it seems like kind of a 3 wishes question. Like, if you had so much cognitive power at your fingertips, what would you do that? I'd like to know. If it were the 3 wishes, if it were a genie, I'd be like, what's the best thing I should ask you?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, maybe I'm exaggerating its power, but it's a bit like at a party being introduced to somebody who you know would be an excellent mentor. In your case, for example, let's say you encountered a guy from NASA who had 10 PhDs in electronics and physics, everything like that, and you really like this guy, and you say, I'm doing this. So you got a mentor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what would you...
I think I was looking over stuff I'd written down yesterday, and somebody asked me a really interesting question once, where he said his key for innovating things was to take something that is not going to go away anytime soon. We all used phones. I'm talking on mine right now. And he said, ask the question, what is this going to look like in 50 years? So I think if Watson could give me an estimate of what phones would look like in 50 years, I'd really want to know that, so then I could go out and make it.
Okay, would your phone, at a guess, wouldn't your phone be some sort of a brain interface?
Something like, I don't know. Maybe
See,
I'd ask him what it would look 10 years. But
Yeah, that's right.
What's going to be the next? What's the next step in the phone evolution?
Yeah. I find it confusing trying to anticipate what the technology is going to do. It gets increasingly hard because the pace of change is so great. I constantly read the Singularity Hub articles that come in. Are you in Singularity Hub, or are you just one of the grinders? Okay. See, you might like to be in the Singularity Hub. It costs about $5 US per month. And you get this feed of the highest tech, I think that's the highest tech on the planet, fed to you in a fairly layman's language. So I get the stuff all the time, and it covers everything, you know, nanotechnology, genomics, you know, AI, robotics, all that stuff's constantly coming in, the latest technology on the next advances. So the impression I get from what I've been reading is that we're heading away from physical devices like wearables and well, I guess we'll still have a wearable communicating phone, but it might be more like a Google Glass or a headset or something like that before it actually goes into our body. So that's my guess is where it would go.
I think we're coming into an age of wearables where people are comfortable having technology with them at all times. There's this thing of, ooh, I'm putting Big Brother in my pocket or something. I think that's going away. I think smartwatches are now being sold at major retailers. So I think we're coming into an age of wearables, and I think that's going to be a stepping stone for people to accepting implants.
Yeah. Have you got implants yourself?
In my left hand, I have a magnet in my ring finger, and I have an RFID, which took me an extra moment to unlock my phone because I use that for phone security.
How long have you had the RFID?
Just a few months. I can actually kind of still see the scar.
Okay. And now tell me what it's like. I've got a magnet in the mail to me. I'm going to have a magnet implanted in my finger down in Wellington at some stage. Tell me a bit what it's like for the RFID. I thought of getting RFID to open my shed and my house, which I do constantly, and even to unlock my bicycle, which I constantly lock and unlock. Do you think I could do that? I could get RFID to unlock and lock my bicycle?
Oh, absolutely.
How big is the equipment?
I have one. Smaller than a deck of cards, actually.
Okay.
This is the kit that came from me in the mail, which is for RFID. The one I'm going to show you doesn't work with NFC, but typical RFID is what this is meant for. So this will do things like the little key fobs and things. This will read that. So this is the antenna, smaller than a deck of cards, and this is the circuit board that reads it and would send data, the serial number of your RFID chip, to an Arduino or some other programmable hardware.
Okay, but that has to be implanted. All of that has to be implanted in you, or is that the receiver?
No, this would be the receiver. This would be part of your bike lock. So
okay. All right. Okay, so this and the little RFID chip, for those that haven't seen it, it's about the size of a very thin medical capsule for pharmaceuticals, and you get that put into the crook of your hand, just in the fleshy bit between your fingers. You better put it in there. So then you can open doors or anything you like with that. You can be recognised. And Brian's just said that he gets his cell phone switch on that way. And are you finding it convenient? I mean, has it changed your life much?
Well, it changed the way I unlock my phone. I've got I know some people who like to fool around with my phone. They'll pick it up and they'll post on Facebook as me, or sometimes malicious, sometimes just kidding around, and that's completely stopped.
Okay.
It's very difficult to unlock my phone now.
Yeah, okay.
Put a mark on my hand where the RFID sits. It's actually migrated a couple millimeters.
How long does it take to unlock? When you put it next to the thing, it takes about 3 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds?
Yeah, it depends. Like I said, it's migrated a little bit, so my muscle memory of placing the phone in the correct spot on my hand has been unlearned. But it's almost instantaneous. It's just
Okay.
as fast as doing a swipe pattern.
Okay, so a receptor in a door would cost about $150?
If you buy a commercial one, I've seen them for, I think, right around $200 US.
200,
And that's
okay.
for a deadbolt and handle. So it's a fairly large piece of hardware.
Okay.
If you build your own, much cheaper. An NFC reader or an RFID reader are less than 20.
Okay. So on my if I wanted my bicycle to have one, how much would I pay totally? $30 for the little chip capsule thing I put inside my body, and how much for the receptor that I would put on the bike?
It would be, I think I've seen one on dangerousthings.com for $24. That's a reader, and then you'd have to hook it to some kind of bike lock or something, a motor.
Okay.
As far as I know, it has to be built from the ground up.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, I've got a bit off the track here. Talking about Watson, I was interested that IBM has quite recently yielded to quite a lot of public pressure to make available Watson to the general public, and notably they said they would make it available within a few months to college students. Now, if they can do that over there, I wonder whether they would make it available for individuals. I would be quite happy to pay per minute to use it. In the old days, I used to use the first databases before the internet came alive and was the World Wide Web. You used to be able to hire time on databases, notably dialogue information services and knowledge index and stuff, and I was quite happy to pay $3.50 a minute or 50 cents a minute for knowledge index to access about 100 different databases, medical, the full text of newspapers, a bit like the precursors of the World Wide Web, but I gained a great deal from that. And I would love to be able to use Watson from here in New Zealand if I could. I was hoping maybe somebody would join us who knew about that, but I am going to pursue it, and maybe I'll publish whatever I find into the Singularity Hub group, which we post each other messages, that sort of thing. But what I was hoping to do was confer about what uses we would put it to. Like, if it's that smart, even if I'm not giving it access to huge amounts of big data like the medical people do or the retail would about their accounts or their databases of medical events and cases, even if it contains the full Wikipedia inside it, that still would be very good for a very smart AI thing to look around for me to answer questions. I could say, what does it look like? What's the trend in microphones? Where are microphones going, and what should I buy? And if it's any good, it might be able to say, well, you know, the blue type microphone, this one here, that's going to be more important in the future. So if you're going to buy one, you're probably better to buy one of those. So it's kind of like a Google, but smarter than Google. That's kind of what I hope. If somebody joins us in this, maybe they'll be able to give us some ideas on that. Have you any experience, or have you read anything about brain caps at all? I've been looking at brain caps lately. It's a bit like biohacking. Yeah, wearable.
Yeah, the kind that stimulate the brain through direct transdermal or transcranial. I haven't looked at that too much. There are two people in the area, in the cities I live in, who are planning to build one. One has already started construction, and the other guy has some ideas about implementing patterns. I've been kind of on that project in name only, so it's not something that's fully piqued my interest, I guess.
Okay. Tim Cannon was talking about do it yourself. He said you can make one yourself. I was a bit nervous about it because
he's the guy who's got the idea for patterns. Yeah.
Okay.
Or no, not Tim Cannon. Sorry, I was thinking that.
Yeah. He said he was thinking of getting it to generate a feeling of awe or a religious feeling, because apparently you can do that. If you put the right current through the right part of your brain, you get this feeling of immense awe and wonder. You know, sort of religious feeling.
Religious experience, yeah.
Yeah, it fascinates me that you could do that. Not just that. That's interesting that you could do that, because it really is biohacking when you're doing that. You could, for example, let's say that you weren't motivated. Let's say you were doing a geography paper at university and you had to do it but you didn't like geography. So what you could do is put something like some images of geography or some text of geography, use that device to generate tremendous awe and wonder and marveling while you are contemplating them. And that would create lots of dopamine, I suppose, the chemical for enjoyment. And presumably it would then be associated with geography. So now you've got a sense of marveling at the geography of the planet and the people and everything like that. And I suppose that might motivate you to like geography and be motivated and motivate yourself to get through the paper. It's just an example of a kind of biohacking with those brain caps.
I think that'd be great. I think it might take a little reinforcement than just a single treatment, where you give yourself a little doses while you do your study, and eventually your brain goes, "I must love this." And
right.
Then on.
It is the Dangerous Things website is well named, because this is, of course, very dangerous. The danger, one of the most notable danger is, I imagine it could be one of the most addictive things you could ever do. You know that there are rats they've got an implant in their brain, and they will press the bar to get the reward into the septal region of their brain until they starve. They would rather press the bar than eat, and they die.
Yeah.
I was very amused yesterday, I think it was, reading about dolphins were given the same test. You know what happened with them? They pressed the bar. When they got really hungry, they raced away, ate something, came back, and started pressing the bar.
I've seen people do that with television and movies. And
yeah. Well, it's interesting that the dolphins are smart enough to not let themselves die. But brain caps, the precision of brain caps to sense and to signal into your brain is very interesting to me. The kind of biohacking that I suppose is of most interest to me is the ability to change myself. I've been in the what you call it, the new age movement for decades, and it's a lot to do with self-improvement, advantaging yourself, that sort of thing. And the brain caps seem to offer a lot of opportunity to that, in that if you can get to know what's happening in your brain, then you can find what's causing it, and you can make changes to yourself. I've got a galvanic skin response device that I use when I'm doing meditation. It fits between two things. I'll show it to you. Okay, that's what it looks like. I bought this in about 1995, and it's got two electrodes. I put two fingers on the electrodes like that, and it measures the resistance, the electrical resistance between those two fingers. There's an earpiece that I stick in my ear, and it makes a sound. If I pull the plug out, you know. There you go. I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that?
Oh yeah.
And as you relax, the tone goes down and down. So you do have quite a real feedback of how you're relaxing in your meditation. So it acts as a guide. Okay, so I'll be watching those brain caps with great interest. I was going to buy a particular one. It's got about 12 electrodes on it. I think it's about $300, but I don't know how accurate it is, and and I don't know what information it gives you about yourself. So I'm going to wait a little bit until I can see a definite use of it.
Mm-hmm. What you were saying before about finding out what's wrong with the brain, things like Alzheimer's are due to deterioration of the brain and stuff, and finding out that the language center of my brain is depleting.
Right.
Maybe I need to find a way to stimulate that. So I think that could be some very powerful research.
Right. I suppose one of the most interesting things is how much can we consciously, through developing our knowledge about these things, change the physical state of our body. I'm reading currently a book by Candice Pert called Molecules of Emotion. And she was a researcher who discovered that there were receptors for the opiates, not just in the brain, but in the rest of the body as well. Nobody would believe it at first, but then she discovered that there were the receptors there, so the opiates affected the whole body. And then she went on to discover that the peptides that cause all these chemical changes in the body are everywhere. Even macrophages in the blood are the little cell, little organisms that fight infection. They can both receive peptides and transmit them, generate them and transmit them. So in summary, our whole body, and including the blood, is a communication system where there's signals going chemically and electrically around the place all the time. So that was quite fascinating to me. But I'm fascinated, following what I've learned from her, to know how much, if you know what you're doing, you can change the state of your body. For example, could you cure cancer? Could you, if you've got cancer, could you, if you knew what you're doing, invoke an immune response or arrest the excessive immune response so that the cancer simply just abated and didn't take you?
Yeah, I could see where that would be. That would follow. One of the people I know locally, he's very deep into nootropics, and he said that since he started, some of his gray hair has grown back in at its natural color. So
oh, is that right?
That changing the chemistry of the body can be extremely powerful, and I don't know what's been done in the research of cancer.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I've been looking into nootropics. There's one called Noopept, Noopept, and it's hard for me in New Zealand to get the stuff you can get in the States, but there is a local guy here or some person here running a website, and I think it's called Noopept, and he said we're out of stock at the moment, but in a few weeks we might be able to do it. We might be able to supply some. And Stephen Merrill Smith, with whom I normally do these teleconferences, he has used Hydrogene, I think it is, for 20 years, and he said it's got embarrassing that people don't believe how old he is because he used them for 20 years and it basically arrested his aging. I was very interested in that. So I hope to use those as a kind of biohack, because my memory, I'm 65 and my memory is nowhere near as good as it used to be. I do luminosity exercises every day, and that makes me more, less lazy about using my brain. But I would like to use those nootropics if I can, for two reasons. One is to stop the aging process if I can, and number two would be that I could simply remember things better. Because it's not just a question of arresting the aging process. It's, as you've just suggested with your friend with the grey hair going black, that you seem to be able to reverse it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of Noopept?
No, I had to look it up when you mentioned it.
Okay.
Yeah, nootropics have not been something that I've been interested in. I wouldn't say I have a phobia of pills, but I'm not fond of taking them. So it's...
Yeah. Okay. I am reluctant to take medication. I'd much rather find other ways of doing it. But at 65, if I want to climb on the bus of immortality, then I'm on the borderline as to whether or not I'll have the choice, because apparently it'll be about 2040. By that time I'd be 80, sort of thing. So I'm in a slightly different position to you. I've got less to lose, because I'm going to probably die anyway. And it's not even a question of just dying. It's a question of aging uncomfortably and miserably and in a humiliating way. You're young, so you can say, well, I'm never going to take any of these biohacking drugs. I will simply put implants and stuff, and I'll wait until Ray Kurzweil and his cronies, or more. What's the name of the guy? Aubrey de Grey. I'll wait until they come up with the medications and genetic modification that will enable me to live longer or not age. So I'm not in a position to wait the way you are, I think. Now, I was going to, as another topic, I was going to talk about nanotech. Have you thought about nanotech?
One of the people in the local group knows quite a bit about nanotech. It's another one that I've not. It's so far away from DIY that it hasn't been studied.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that too. One of the principles is it's all down to a single atom or small molecule level, and these things can be designed to jumble around until they match up and link up and fabricate little machines themselves. And apparently that means that we can totally revolutionize manufacturing. There's a video, there's a few videos of that on YouTube. I'm sort of a bit confused between nanotech and 3D printing. Well, maybe they'll combine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if nanotech would ever come into the DIY foray, somebody would have to make something, an assembly device or construction device that could produce nanotech at an affordable level. And
yeah, right. I wonder. I suppose that's feasible because all these technologies are converging, and if, for example, a chemist who knew how to do the biotechnology or the chemistry of nanotechnology, and he said, well, you could make a simple one for $500, but it would take me $500,000 to design it and get it created and patented and everything. If they went online to a crowdfunding site like Kickstart, all of a sudden they've got their $500,000 and away they go. So maybe that's the kind of world we're living in now.
Yeah, when you can get funding worldwide, I think that's if there's a demand for it, somebody will step up and say, hey, give me your money, and people will.
Yeah. What projects are you working on right now, Brian?
A few. I think the most important one for biohackers is an implantable compass that uses no electricity. It's going to be done solely with magnets and mechanical stuff, so it never needs to be charged. That's the goal.
Okay, so I have a very poor sense of direction. You turn me around once and I'm just hopeless. I've been laughed at by my family because I get lost very easily. I don't know where I am, that sort of thing. So I was interested. I've read about, I think it's probably your device that I've read about. One thing that fascinated me was that it seemed not only to give you a sense of direction while it was in your body, but it somehow trained your body, even if it was removed, to still have a sense of direction.
I've read about the North Paw, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
It's an anklet, and people wear it. It's got 8 vibrating motors, and it vibrates on the side of your leg that is facing north. And people have reported that they have an additional sense. They just have this intrinsic knowledge of where north is, and it gives them an uncanny sense of direction. That's even with it off.
Yeah, that's even with it.
No, the people who have had it removed said they feel like they're almost blind, like they've just lost that sense.
Oh, okay.
But there could be other reports. There could be other people who say otherwise. But from what it's like.
Okay, maybe that's right. But I thought that I'd read that some people who had the experience of the compass, the built-in compass, for months and months, when it was removed, they still had a sense of direction. That really interested me. They had a good sense of where north was, but somehow their body, having been, say, rewarded strongly every time it faced north, it's somehow the little very low-level signals that our body must have from the iron molecules in the blood, for example. They had developed a sense of direction. They'd been trained by the device to have a sense of direction, and even when the device wasn't there, after that experience, they then knew where north was.
That would be that would interest me more in that project than the reason I'd wanted to make one implantable is so that it would never ever be lost and never need charging, so it would you'd never spend a day without it. But
yeah, right.
The mechanical external version could do that. That would be
that's right. Yeah, that's right. It's always interested me that there seems to be an inclination of some people to want to implant things in their body, even when they could do it with a wearable. And even it fascinates me too that they have a curiosity about pain. They're willing to do operations with implants without anesthetic, and it must be pretty sharp, unpleasant pain. And I myself will have an anesthetic. When I get my magnet implant put in, I'll have an anesthetic to get that done. But I'm interested in these guys, and maybe it's a macho thing, but it's more than that. One of them yesterday said that it was a curiosity about pain. He was studying pain. He wanted to know more about what his reaction was. So that fascinates me too.
When I got my magnet implanted, I passed out. I know that's not the macho thing to say, but I felt they were like a sack of potatoes. I don't know if you can see it. I have a scar on my chin from where I hit the floor. Probably one of the least macho things I ever did.
Yeah, right. Well, fair enough. When I used to get, years ago, when I used to get injections by a nurse for any reason, vaccination or a blood test or anything like that, many times I would faint. Now, I tell you, I found out a technique to deal with that. I theorized, it was very embarrassing, so I theorized that fainting is a loss of blood pressure. So I thought, what say I really tense my major muscles, say the thigh muscles, my front, my stomach muscles, all those abs, all those. If I really tense myself as much as possible, except for the arm that's going to have the injection, because you don't want the muscle to be tense. But if I tensed myself really up with my big muscles of my thighs and stuff, I'd be less likely to faint. And sure enough, I didn't faint.
I think pilots, high G pilots use a similar technique. It's to keep oxygen flowing to their extremities, where they compress their abdomen, and they have special suits that keep blood flowing up. So I think there's a lot of validity to what you're saying.
Yeah.
I wrote that down because if I might get another magnet implanted, and I want to have that one ready, just in case I feel like that's not again.
Yeah. What do you think the next? See, I'm interested in having the replacement of a cell phone in my body, and preferably something not too big. I'd like something, I don't know, about the size of a piece of chocolate, but half as thick, but to give me really good interaction with the world. What's your understanding of the best technology, the most comprehensive implant that you could have?
This has been discussed on the forum several times, and I think the general consensus is that you don't want to put necessarily high-tech into your body. You want to put something that can interact with high-tech. So rather than having a phone implanted, you'd want a Bluetooth headset implanted, because Bluetooth technology is going to be available standard in most cell phones for the next decade. And to have a phone that can interact with that, where you can just, maybe tap this Bluetooth headset twice and it connects you to Watson or Wolfram Alpha, or just a Google search, would be more powerful than trying to put a phone up there, because a phone is going to be outdated in 3 years.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Obsolete in 3 years. But a Bluetooth headset that is implantable and convenient is going to work with your updated phone every time you upgrade.
So when you talk about a Bluetooth headset, you're talking about something that through bone conduction can talk to your pocket cell phone.
It would make more sense to use bone conduction. There already are Bluetooth and bone conduction hearing aids, and some people have talked about getting those as a hack.
Yeah. I suppose it'll come sooner or later. Well, we've gone to 3/4 of an hour, and I've kind of run out of topics to talk about. Was there anything particular that you'd like to talk about? See, as I understood it, we had about 10 or 15 people watching this, so said they were going to watch. Stephen got held up in the subway, so he can't. He and I have a great yak about this stuff. and we'd both watched several videos, and we're going to talk about those. But we've sort of covered the topics.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you located, by the way, Brian?
United States in Minnesota, so right
Okay.
in the middle north part of the U.S.
Yeah, okay. I lived in Montreal for a while up there, and
Oh.
lived in Toronto. Lived in Toronto for a while.
Very nice.
Okay, well, I think I might, if you don't mind, I think I might finish this now, and maybe we'll have another one in a week's time. I've run this one at the time where the UK can participate as well as the United States, and quite a few people. There was Roman Menitz, Radar Wasnius, Amanda Stoll, Vincent Corley, Can Uludag, Peter Diezrix, Peter Morgan, and Simon Woodward. They said they were going to be watching, so I hope we've been interesting to watch, guys, and maybe you'd like to join us next time. All right, so thanks, Brian, for participating, and maybe I'll see you in a future one.
All right, thank you very much for calling.
Okay, bye.